Most ESSA programs require districts to supplement and not supplant the state and local funds they would otherwise spend on education. Generally, this means ESSA funds should add to or supplement and not replace or supplant state and local funds. A few programs also require districts to use federal program funds to add and not replace other federal funds. The tests for compliance with supplement not supplant requirements vary depending on the federal program being implemented. While this video covers the provisions in ESSA, districts should also note that IDEA and Perkins also have their own supplement not supplant requirements. Because of the unique nature of each title program, districts are encouraged to reach out to the appropriate ODE program specialist with specific supplement not supplant questions. In general, there are two cases in which the U.S. Department of Education will presume that supplanting has occurred. These are referred to as presumption tests. These presumption tests apply to all federal programs except Title 1A. Presumption Test 1 asks, are the services that the LEA wants to fund with ESSA funds required under state, local, or another federal law? If the services are required under state, local, or another federal law, then it is presumed that the LEA is supplanting. Presumption Test 2 asks, were state or local funds used in the past to pay for these services? If services were paid with state and local funds in the past, it is presumed that the LEA is supplanting. For Title 1C and Title 3, there is an additional layer of supplement not supplant because of the unique needs of the students that qualify for services under these programs. For Title 1C, ESSA requires districts operating a migrant education program, or MEP, to 1. Use MEP funds to supplement, not supplant, non-federal funds, and 2. Provide services to migratory children with state and local funds that are at least comparable to services provided to non-migratory children. It is important to note that districts providing services to migrant students must use funds from other federal programs before they use Title 1C funds to provide the same services. Title III is more expansive than other programs and presumes supplanting when a district uses Title IIIA funds to pay for an activity that was funded with other federal funds in the prior year. For example, using Title III funds to pay for a professional development program the district funded with Title IIA funds the prior year would raise a presumption of supplanting. Please note, a district may overcome the second presumption of supplanting if it can demonstrate it cannot continue to support an activity with state, local, or other federal funds because of funding reductions. For Title I Part A, there are 3 fiscal tests for demonstrating compliance to ensure that Title I funds are supplemental to state and local funds. The first test is the Supplement Not Supplant test, which we refer to as methodology. The second test is comparability, and the third test is maintenance of effort, or MOE. For methodology, LEAs must distribute state and local funds to schools without taking into account a school's participation in the Title I program. For comparability, state and local funds are used to provide services that, taken as a whole, are comparable between Title I and non-title schools. For MOE, LEAs must maintain a consistent floor of state and local funding for free public education from year to year. All of these are looked at together to ensure LEAs are in compliance. Overcoming these presumptions requires that LEAs keep documentation, such as budget information, planning documents, or other documents that demonstrate why shifts in funding services were made. For example, in some cases, the LEA would need to present fiscal or programmatic documentation to confirm that the services in question would have been eliminated. In other cases, the LEA would need to provide state or local legislative actions that show a reduction in funding and the prior year's budgets that show where funding shifted. In general, LEAs must determine what educational activities it would support if no ESSA funds were available. If it is clear that no state or local funds remain available to fund certain activities, then the district may be able to use ESSA funds to pay for those activities. Please contact ODE with any questions related to overcoming the presumption of supplanting. There are some exceptions to supplement not supplant. Funding decline. An exception can occur if an LEA had a significant decline in state or local funding, in which case they may be able to use federal funds to supplement the loss in funding. Temporary funding shift. An LEA that temporarily shifts a cost from Title I to state and local funds because of federal funding cuts may move the costs back to Title I once federal funding is restored without violating supplement not supplant. Title I-like activities. Title I-like activities supported by supplemental state and local funds are excluded from the supplement not supplant analysis. Let's talk more about these activities. LEAs may exclude supplemental state and local funds used for any program that meets the intent and purpose of Title I Part A. Why does this flexibility exist? To allow LEAs to use state and local funding to expand the reach of Title I-A funds. Normally, it would be considered supplanting if an LEA used Title I funds to pay for reading coaches to work with struggling readers in Title I schools when using supplemental state or local funds to pay for such coaches in non-Title I schools. This is because the supplemental state or local funds provide extra support to struggling readers and do not displace, for example, or supplant state and local money. Keep in mind, federal funds are intended to provide supplemental services that would not have been provided had the federal grant funds not been available. Supplement not supplant rules vary by federal program, but essentially are not allowed to pay for services that are required under state, local, or other federal law. It is important to keep good fiscal records from year to year to demonstrate that services are supplemental in nature. Now, please return to the module for the next learning activity.